For Sunday, November 6th, you found the Georgia gang. Topping our agenda today, last licks before the major national elections. Will there be a runoff for the U.S. Senate in Georgia? And the Hawks have a new nest. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia gang starts now.
And we're glad you could be with us. We are, of course, just 2 days away from the presidential election. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but we want to concentrate our broadcast on what's on the ballot in Georgia. And so we are joined today by Matt Towery, Fox 5's political analyst. We're glad he's here. And Matt, I think I'll start with you. Sure. I guess we got some constitutional amendments that are very hotly contested, but in terms of people on the ballot, the veteran Johnny Isakson seeking re-election against a really weak and ineffectual candidate. And the question for Isakson is, can he avoid a runoff? Can he get 50+1? On Fox 5 the other night, you weren't sure.
But I am now.
Okay.
I am, based on numbers that I'm just getting as we go to air, I believe Johnny Isakson will win. I think he will win surprisingly above 50%.
Well, good.
So I don't think that, I think that it was close at one point because you had that turbulence with the Trump campaign, and Trump has lifted or brought back all votes. But Trump is surging now in Georgia. He's doing much better. Johnny Isakson got things in control, got the right ads up, and our numbers say Johnny Isakson. This NBC poll's an outlier, the one that said that it was all these things.
That's
were
the one I was referring
yeah,
to.
absolutely not the case. Isakson wins without a runoff.
And Phil, I think the reason that NBC poll is not 100% accurate is that it's a familiar theme in Georgia politics. That poll shows Barksdale, the Democrat, at 37, which to me is about the Democratic baseline in this state. It's what Johnny Isakson's previous opponents have done, maybe a little better. But they showed Alan Buckley, the Libertarian, at 8%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Never happens.
And we
it's
all
always
said
half
this.
that.
Every one of us on this panel has realized this, that the Libertarian vote always goes.
I think it's going to happen on the national election on Tuesday as well. Though Gary Johnson and the Green Party candidate have been polling well, I don't think that those numbers are going to materialize.
They're not going to hold, right?
No.
I agree.
No, in the end. And I mean, Alan Buckley, whom we all know, good for him, is showing at 8%, but he'll end up with 4. Yeah. And that's where Isakson, I think, will get over the 50+1. I don't know the real numbers. But you know, and Matt, we've said this before, it is amazing to me that a constitutional amendment that isn't called the Georgia lottery is the talk of more people
The election, right.
than an election for the U.S. Senate. And it's my sense, and I don't know if you polled it because you're busy with some bigger pictures, but well, let me go to you, Phil. Do you think the Amendment 1, the Opportunity School Districts, is going to fail?
It's in trouble. There's a last-minute surge by both sides on TV advertising. We've talked about this for weeks. I'm still optimistic. Obviously, I could be wrong. I think the governor has put heart and soul in this, and I think some of the information that's coming out now about the failing schools and the fact that some of these schools have been failing for 10 years and more, and the unions and the Democrats really have no solutions. They're just opposed to this intervention by the state.
Alexis, the NEA, the National Education Association, the teachers union, spent $5 million in Georgia to defeat this. $5 million.
That's a lot of money.
That's like a Senate race.
Yes, and it seems like the governor may be coming back with a little repercussions or retaliation by asking the states to submit who pays union dues in the teacher school boards. Well, I think that's
not good. And they shouldn't be deductible.
That's not a great idea. It's an intimidation factor.
No, they should. The school boards, my tax dollars should not go to deducting some union member's dues. That union member wants to pay dues, send a check. That's real simple to me.
Well, it may be real simple to you.
work.
Well, it's also called accommodating your employees and helping your employees do their job. So I think that there is a bit of contention that may jeopardize this amendment, and I think it may fail.
I know individuals who have been asked to take down Facebook messages opposing OSD. I mean, so to say that there isn't some genuine concern on the level of people in state government
Oh, you mean, okay, public employees as well.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Public employees have to be careful with social
No,
media
I'm
anyway.
not
Yes,
talking
it is.
about public employees.
Who are you
I'm
talking about?
I'm not going to say who I'm talking about, but I know for a fact that people have been have
But one
been,
thing
have
about
been
Amendment
asked
One, Matt,
there's been an attempt to silence some private individuals who are opposed to
Well,
OSD.
people have told all of us to shut up at some point. I'm not
Well,
surprised.
and the other thing
know,
is,
one thing about it-
I think people who are conservative, who would favor the takeover of the school possibly, are resent the fact that it's removing it from local control.
but it isn't.
Temporarily for up to
Temporary
5
for 5
years.
years.
But it
Probably
isn't.
that's the
Every
whole
school
career of
has
an
to have a
elementary
parent
school. Is
council,
fine.
which is more than they have now.
If that doesn't pass, this is where the miscalculation is taking place. You know, we have this. We have all these amendments from the T-Splost on, and they always underestimate the people running these campaigns, the conservative side. They don't really get into the mindset. And I think where the problem is exactly where Alexis was saying, and that is you have these conservative, particularly conservative Christians and the like, who are saying, gee, I don't want government interference in any school, because they think of it as their school. And so that's where the problem lies. If it doesn't pass, it's not going to be the Democrats who defeat it. It's going to be these conservative
Great
Republicans.
point. I agree with
you
you.
know, I
Cherokee
think that that's
County.
exactly right. I mean, we had Dale Russell interviewing the governor earlier this week about his colored people comment. I mean, I don't, you know, you can
Wait a minute,
you can
stop-
call, you
stop
can
about
call
that
us
for a
what us
minute.
want, but the colored people was not his problem. His problem is the Cherokee County GOP, which came out this week, vehemently opposed to this on the very grounds that I've cited on this program, and that is a loss of local control.
Cherokee County better not need a reservoir, some new roads.
Well, you know,
Retaliation,
some
that's terrible.
widening.
Don't
You know,
say that.
and they're
But
not
here's-
and they're not alone. You know that there have been over 40 school boards across the state
Can I
of
go back
Georgia.
to
Many
Jeff?
of
Let me just make
them,
a
most
comment.
of them,
Let me make a
Republican.
comment to Matt and Jeff's point, and I think it also goes to a bigger point too, and that is both on the left and the right and the middle, there is a lack of trust in government now, which is very
That's a
shocking.
good point.
And people are just not trusting government institutions,
and
and you see this with Amendment 1,
Well-
because whether it's your local school board or the state or
And you see it
whatever.
with Amendment 3 as well.
Right.
Right. Let me
I
go-
also think that there is a lack of trust in the African American community too for the schools to take over.
Let me go back to something Jeff just mentioned. Dale Russell on Fox 5 reported that the governor talked about colored people at a speech in Savannah.
Yes.
And there was a little bit of a hue and cry. He later said that's not what he meant. He meant the NAACP.
He meant colored people. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That's exactly what.
Oh, yes, yes.
Isn't that right?
But don't you all call yourselves people of color?
Well, wait a minute. The name of the organization is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And he said, he specifically referred to the advancing colored people. So I think that it was a direct reference to the NAACP.
But even if it weren't-
It's not a matter of, I'm not offended by the words. I've heard worse on the radio. But I had to oppose essentially the substance of what he was saying, which is you've got to start with the children. And you don't start with the children, you start with families, you start with parents, you start with the fact that we've been doing this for a long time, holding people back, and we've got to make a change. And I don't hear that coming from
The
the
other
governor, and I
amendments?
don't
What
hear
about
any
the other
specifics.
amendments?
Can I say one last
Yeah,
thing?
sure.
Let's make it very clear. Nathan Deal is not a racist. No one on this panel thinks that. It was exactly what Jeff said. And if you know anything about the term, why is it they can have that term for their organization, but if he uses a section of it referring to it, he's somehow a racist? That's not the case.
Well, and it is common parlance today to refer to people of color.
But that's different from colored people. Colored people is a throwback to the days
like
of
to see it-
segregation
you
where you
parse
had
that.
colored signs for colored
But do
backgrounds.
you really think that's what he was trying to do?
I don't think that's what he was trying to do, but it also may be a function of his age.
gotta get out.
Because we're the same
Well,
age.
that's true.
And I used to be colored.
And I am too, but just
According to white
we got to
people.
get out. I want to just make one point that I think most of you will understand. The coverage of Amendment 1 by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is the worst, most unforgivable coverage I've seen since the congressional election of 1994, when they endorsed 11 Democrats for Congress in the state of Georgia and did not endorse the man who was the Speaker of the House.
And this is not the
And-
editorial page. Let's be clear.
It's
This
the
is the
entire
news
newspaper.
department. I agree
It's
with you.
columnists, it is piling on, it is amazing, and none of them address the central point I like to ask you, Jeff, all the time. If not this, what? How do we save these failing schools? Okay.
With the education bureaucracy that we already have in the state of Georgia, with the superintendent who is duly elected by the people, and
I'll
not a
trust them
second
over the DeKalb School
superintendent.
Board. Hey,
and not
I'll
a-
take
and not a-
anybody over the
Oh,
DeKalb
no,
School
no,
Board.
I don't trust the state of Georgia with the public education at
All right.
all. All you got to do is look at our history.
Got to get out. When we come back, it's going to be the water wars back in the news, a new nest for the Atlanta Hawks, and the speaker's gotten himself in a little bit of a jam. We'll explain it all in just a minute.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
So we can have some more time to talk about politics. Let's quickly look at the water war case that is before a federal court in Portland, Maine. And Phil, I didn't like the sound of the testimony this week as reported. It sounds like Alabama and Florida are clearly ganging up on Georgia, and the special master wants compromise.
That's right, and I'm just sorry that it got to this point. I was hoping there would be a mediation and all the states would come to some sort of agreement. It's very worrisome. I want to give a shout out to the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce and all the others that are really trying to set the record straight on exactly, what our position is, and that we're not taking water from anybody, and the Florida position is especially weak. But if we lose, I'm just giving a scenario, and I gave one last week. There could be water rationing, and this could damage Georgia's economy.
Well, and we
it's
are
a
in a
serious
severe
thing.
drought right now.
That's exactly
Very
right.
severe drought. It's not getting the publicity. I got the solution to Alabama. They can't seem to mind their own pipelines.
Yeah.
Let's sue them for cutting off our gas.
I thought that you were going to go to war in Tennessee over that river up
I
there.
want the
That's
river.
supposed to
I
be
want the
on our
Tennessee
border.
River
Tennessee
too.
River.
But Alabama's the one that's sticking it to us right now. Let's
And
stick it
that's
back.
not, but that pipeline, that's
They
right.
can't, if they can't maintain their pipelines, to heck with them.
This gives a whole
Sue
new
'em.
meaning to the Civil War, doesn't
And
it?
plus, they haven't even done a plan for their water use, so they're just out of compliance all
Now,
the
I
way
mentioned
around.
Speaker Ralston. He's been before the state bar for some time. It's a pretty obscure legal dispute. And I guess the outcome, Phil, is going to be a reprimand against it in the mildest form available.
That's
but
right.
The case is settled.
That's right. It went to the state bar the other day, and there was a compromise. He does get a reprimand. He did admit to some minor violations, and it goes to the state Supreme Court for ratification. But everybody I've talked to thinks that that's pretty much it.
Well, and as a lawyer at the table, let me just say, 30 years now, I can't believe it. It was the appropriate solution. A lot of small law firms around this state, these sort of confusions take place. I don't think it was a major issue. Never thought it was a major issue.
Is your bar ticket active?
Of course I'm active. Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I have to go to...
Well, I just want to be sure in case, so you could have been Attorney General.
Oh, no one would make me Attorney General. No way.
A little bit of concern of the linkage or the timing, right, with the JQC amendment.
Well, thank you. That's where I
on
was
the
going.
ballot. Thank
Good for you.
And this reprimand and the trouble that the Speaker has had, and the Speaker is a very ardent supporter of that constitutional amendment.
Right.
I don't know if they have anything to do with one another, but the amendment does take 2 votes away from the state bar on
Yes.
the
It's a good
JQC
thing.
membership.
It removes
It removes them entirely.
altogether.
Let's talk about Amendment 3 just for a second, since Jeff brought it up. And I think this is not well known, but I like the fact that, just like on the federal level, that every member of this reconstituted Judicial Qualifications Commission is subject to state Senate approval. And that is a good piece of accountability. It's just like our state parole board. There is state Senate approval, and I think that's a valid check. Right now, there's no accountability for the JQC.
Well, that amendment might be hurt by the opposition to Amendment 1.
That's right.
And also the sex trafficking one could be endangered. People may just say, I'm going to vote against all 4 because Amendment 1 is the
Except that
controversial
people
one.
know you're supposed to vote no for the odds and yes for the evens.
You've been telling them that for
I've been
months.
telling them for weeks.
Well, I would hope people are doing their homework. I would hope people are doing homework.
One more state item. We'll have time to talk about this some other time. But this week, Governor Deal and others turned the spades of earth for the I-285 Georgia 400 redo, a $1 billion transportation project, largest in the state's history. Good luck getting to work if you live anywhere near what will be the new supersized Spaghetti Junction.
It's going to be
or good luck getting to the new ballpark over there in Cobb County.
Good luck with that.
This project's going to be a traffic nightmare for 3 years, even though we need it.
Now, a good week and a bad week for Mayor Kasim Reed in Atlanta. He did a deal with the new owner of the Hawks to completely redo Phillips Arena, and he'll do it by extending the car rental tax. No direct city funds going to it. I thought it should have gotten more acclaim than it did, that deal, to keep the hawks here quietly. And then he got caught by a couple of reporters using his blue lights all the time, lights and sirens. And he got kind of testy about it. But, you know, he's wrong.
Well,
you really can't use that just
He
to get
is
from
wrong,
one
but
meeting to
listen,
another.
Every mayor in the history of this city
you.
has done
I
that.
don't think so.
Not only does everybody do it, but you know, it's such a non-story. It just doesn't make any sense. You've got a city with $150 million surplus, with $1 million bungalows, 2,000 cops on the
What about
street,
the
no
crime,
property taxes
What about
in
the
8
crime
years.
problem? What about the incredible crime problem in Buckhead?
And
nobody's talking about?
this is what we're talking about. I mean,
Well,
you know, it reminds me in this whole His Honor with 2 Z's thing. We've seen this happen to African American elected mayor after another, after another.
You're
Whether
making
it
this
was,
racial?
whether, oh my God, yes,
Bill
I really do.
Wait,
I
Bill
was part of the
Blas-
mainstream
wait,
white press for
Bill
a long
de Blasio
time,
got
and I
hit
do.
in
Yes,
New York for a
absolutely.
helicopter.
I do
I
think
mean,
it's racial.
Jeff,
when
I
I
don't
look
think
at
it's
Bill
racial.
Campbell, when I look at Shirley Franklin and the attacks on her family, when I look at Maynard Jackson, who was, you know, I mean, an upstanding person.
I don't
and the kind of
remember
attacks
Maynard Jackson
against him.
using the blue
Well,
lights and
the-
sirens.
and-
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking
didn't
about the
need to.
general
It's just
kinds
part
of
of the way.
attacks.
That happened. Well, and the
Absolutely.
other
I
thing
think
is,
it's
with the
unconscionable.
traffic in Atlanta, you have to do something to get
Well,
around, get through
I do
it.
think this. I think that every mayor has to be accountable regardless of their race, Jeff. But I will say this. I think he's going to stop a lot of this now because of the focus on him and using police personnel to go through lights and all of that.
You know, I don't think that the mayor's turning on the blue lights. He's got a security detail turning on the blue lights, and if they want to continue to do it, you know, I really don't have a problem with
Well, if
it.
he says I'm late for
We have got a city so well run that Emory University and CDC are clamoring to be a part of
Have
it.
you heard of the crime rate going up?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
You know, let me
Crime
tell you what.
issue.
Have you been around this
Gotta
city
get out.
recently?
Absolutely.
Do you know what it'll cost you to live in this city?
Absolutely.
Got to get out.
Yeah, it's
Let's
a
also
popular
remember
place to
Atlanta
be.
City voters who never fail to pass a tax have 2 to vote on. It's going to
That's
be
right.
like
2 or
Nirvana
3.
in the city of Atlanta because
Right.
they can vote to increase the MARTA tax and increase their sales tax to pay for roads.
And do something about the transportation system in the
Right.
city that
And
we
the-
had an opportunity to do in 2012
But
and
it's not
passed
so
so
And so
long.
the
And
mayor
if they
won't have to
vote
use
yes,
the blue lights.
If they vote yes,
Fix
it will
the
be a
transportation.
9% sales tax, one of the highest in the country.
And
Well-
the northern Fulton cities all also have their own vote on something besides MARTA. In other words, roads, bridges. All right, we got to get out. When we come back, we'll get back to really hardcore politics. I must say, though, blaming criticism of the mayor for using lights and sirens on race is a new one. It's not necessarily a new low. It's just amazing. Politics when we come back.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at fox5atlanta.com.
You can say a lot about the Georgia Gang, but you can't say we're not wide-ranging, if today's broadcast is any indication. All right, Tuesday, it is the highest stakes election I can remember. All the other cliches, pile them on. And Matt, you poll constantly. That's what you do. You analyze. Give us a look at the presidential race in Georgia first.
Okay, in Georgia, it looks pretty comfortable for Trump. Billy Kirkland, who is running the campaign for the Trump campaign, and Raina Casey is doing a great job as chairperson, gave me some numbers, and these numbers I vetted myself. Overall, the people who vote in Republican primaries in Georgia, who are voting versus Democratic primaries, the Republicans are up 60K plus in terms of early voters, and that's looking good for them. The demographics are looking pretty good. Also, the numbers in the polls are looking pretty good. So I don't expect, Georgia is not going to be all that close for
But now,
Trump.
Florida, you have an opinion savvy poll that shows Clinton leading, but you said on the air the other night that Trump's going to close that gap.
Well,
you didn't say it with great certitude.
I think, well, you know, I have to understand, my son does polling with Opinion Savvy. He has a great record. But one of the problems with Florida is it's shifting sand. I mean, if you look at the early vote there, let me give you an example. About 500,000 Republicans voted early in 2012. They're up to 1 million this time. So what it means is the turnout models are so different that when you weight the polls, you can't really have any certainty as to whether, you know, you're right or wrong. So I think it's going to be very, very tight in Florida, and Trump could pull it off there too.
Well, he has to, doesn't he?
Yes.
By the way.
Yes. I think. Yeah.
I also heard a report from one of some pollster that I don't remember the name of it in the Florida contest that the exit polling that they did showed that 20% of the Republican women voted for Hillary.
And
Well,
that's entirely possible.
Yeah, that's possible.
So that's
Especially
not good for Trump.
college-educated women.
Right,
But
that's
we're
not-
also seeing the African American vote is higher for Trump than we've seen for other Republicans in the past in our polling. So
Is
it's
that
in Florida? Yes, ma'am.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
absolutely.
Dick, let me make a quick point that you and I have talked about for years, and that is early voting.
Thank you.
And I am tired of this too early voting, especially with all of the corruption stories that have come out, or the stories on Trump that have come out over the last 3 weeks. I think maybe keep it to 1 week before Election Day if you're going to have early voting.
I
But
agree.
we got to pull
I
back.
agree with you wholeheartedly if we do it online. Absolutely. We can do it online 1 week before the election. Everybody can get an opportunity to vote. You ought not have any real scandals in the last week of the campaign, at least not coming from the
I'm
FBI.
opposed to early voting,
and we should
period.
be good.
But it-
All right?
I don't want it,
Just let
period.
us vote on.
None.
Just let us vote online.
Or
If
vote
we
on
can make-
Tuesday.
have a weekend of
Vote on
voting
Tuesday.
and have it online. I mean, if you can do your banking online, why can't you vote online?
Well,
If you can pay
Matt,
your taxes online, why can't
also,
you vote online? And you want everybody to line up
Well, wait a
for
minute,
10
you oppose
hours?
photo IDs, and yet you'd allow people to vote online?
Yeah, well, you
Oh
don't
my
have to
goodness,
identify
yes,
them.
absolutely.
Well,
If
I see the plan. Oh, I get it.
I can pay my taxes online, but I can't vote online?
Oh, I see. Well, this
Dick,
is
how
a great
about this?
plan.
And this is for Matt, and I know we'd have First Amendment issues, but maybe we ought to ban, like some foreign countries do, all polling a week out before the election.
Well, you and I talked about that. And I said, well, listen, I'd be very happy. Nobody would be stopping me saying what's going to happen or be mad at me. You know? But the fact is, the First Amendment would keep that from
I
happening.
understand.
But I will say this about early voting. Yeah, early voting. Let me say this, Dick. I said on this show before, I've said it on the Fox 5 set many times, I expect this to be the biggest turnout in modern American history. This is a reality.
Really? I haven't heard you say that.
It
Wow.
is a reality show. This is a reality show. Everyone wants to be a part of it. And if you saw the Truman Show, everyone wants to see if Truman gets outside the bubble or not. And they're all going to be watching and glued to it. And I don't think this early voting is going to peter off when it comes to the time that people go to the polls. This is an explosive election. It's going to be massive voting all over the country.
Wow, well, certainly from what I can see, that's true in Florida. I don't sense it that way in Georgia. We've got to get out. But Phil, I want to emphasize the early voting thing. The Comey announcement alone argues against early voting. Her health, for example, heaven forbid something to happen to her, but suppose she'd had a stroke.
Right.
Right? Suppose he'd had a stroke, whatever.
Right.
I
Anything.
think early voting is ridiculous.
No, I disagree. But go ahead. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. All right, when we come back, we'll go to winners and losers. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And we'll begin winners and losers with you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Dick. Well, the winner is going to be Kasim Reed. He has been the face of the two initiatives for transit, both for transit and transportation in the city of Atlanta, both of which would increase by a half cent the sales tax paid by everybody, not just city residents. And so my hat is off to Kasim Reed for leading that effort that I think is going to pass overwhelmingly in the city of Atlanta. My loser, those who are out there still characterizing effective, successful black elected officials like Kasim Reed as being arrogant and imperious. This is a practice, Dick. I know that you got me a minute ago, but this is a practice that I've seen for 40 years, and you can't ignore that kind of consistent strain in the mainstream media.
Okay, Matt, your time has been just gobbled, but go for
Very
it.
quick. First of all, my former classmate, Clyde Reese, has been named to the Court of Appeals. Clyde, I'm very proud of you. You will do a great job. Congratulations, and great pick, Governor Deal. I'm going to let Phil talk about now soon-to-be former State Representative Joe Wilkinson. He's also a winner. And finally, the Georgia gang is. This gentleman, Dick Williams, we've known each other since this gang started. They've covered a whole lot of elections, and I make you guys the winner of the week since I'll probably be gone after this week back to Florida for a while.
Oh, well, we're going to miss you. Actually, it's been fun, but I don't want to wait 4 years for you, Matt.
Okay, you got it.
All right, Phil, what do you, Alexis, go. You go.
Okay.
I didn't mess up the
a point of
cameras.
personal privilege. I'm going to say happy birthday to my mommy. She's 93 this week.
Wow,
Happy
good for
birthday.
her.
Congratulations.
Good. And then I also want to congratulate the Interfaith Community Initiatives. Had their friendship luncheon fundraiser this week, and it was very wonderful. And they want to restore civility by people getting to know people they don't know. And so we should all be a blessing to each other, and everybody should pursue social justice.
Can't we all just get along?
There you go. That's it. And that would be nice.
I do want to make State Representative Joe Wilkinson of Sandy Springs my winner. In fact, he's been honored this past week, and rightly so. He's retiring. He's the head of the Ethics Committee of the House of Representatives, and I don't care which side of the party aisle you're on, he was highly respected. It's something we need more in government, where you can build bridges and reach out. He was perfect for that position. And also, the state of Georgia and Governor Deal and his economic team are winners. Site Selection magazine, for the 4th year running, has named Georgia the top state for which to do business with.
Okay, I've got a couple here. A winner, the Woodruff Arts Center completed its $100 million campaign with $110 million. Delta made the contribution that put the symphony back on track to restore its full complement of musicians. My loser, the city of Chicago. No, not because the Cubs won the World Series, but because Democrats there presided over the deaths last weekend of 17 people, 42 people wounded. Just another weekend in Chicago. To me, that overshadows the great World Series win. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
And where do they get the guns from?
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.